Welcome back to the Malaysia Money Matters show. It's February 5th, 2025, and we've got a lot to get through today. From steel giants making big moves to international trade tensions heating up, we'll break it all down and explore what it all might mean for your investments and the Malaysian economy.
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic time right now. And today's deep dive, I think, really shows how interconnected things are, from company decisions all the way to global events.
Okay, let's jump right in with some major moves happening
Yep.
in the Malaysian steel industry. Anjo Resources is making headlines with their acquisition of a huge industrial plot. In Kedah, we're talking 437 acres.
Yeah, and it's not even just the size. It's that this plot comes with a high-powered 275 kV substation, which is like gold for energy-intensive industries. You know, Anjo is clearly betting big on the industrial growth of that whole region.
Yeah, it seems like they're really trying to get ahead of the curve, especially with semiconductor, electronics, and automotive industries, all setting up shop there.
Exactly. They're positioning themselves to be like the main steel supplier for these booming sectors. Now, on the flip side, we have another steel player, Colform Group, and they're going public on the ACE market, which is a platform for smaller growing companies to raise capital. They're trying to expand from Sabah into Peninsular Malaysia, which could really shake things up.
Their IPO is valued at $216 million. That's a pretty big chunk of change for a company getting ready to go head-to-head with bigger players.
Yeah, it's a bold move for sure. It'll be interesting to see how they use this new capital to compete with the likes of Anjo.
Right.
Speaking of competition, let's move over to the automotive industry. Bermaz Auto, the distributor for Mazda in Malaysia, they're facing some heat from those aggressively priced Chinese car makers.
Yeah, I've been reading about that. They're hoping new models, including EVs, will help them turn things around. But with the EV market getting more and more crowded every day, that's no guarantee of success. What do you think? Will it be enough to win back market share?
It's tough to say. Bermaz might have to think. Beyond just releasing new models, maybe get creative with their marketing, like emphasize their reputation for reliability, or really go all in on customer service, you know, to set themselves apart.
Good points. Now, before we move on to international news, there are a few other interesting developments. In the Malaysian company scene, Fajarbaru Builder Group landed a $131.6 million contract to upgrade military facilities in Butterworth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a nice boost for their bottom line.
Definitely. And we're also seeing some strategic asset shuffling, like Jishen Core and Senheng New Retail. They're both selling off land in Johor. Jishen to streamline their operations, and Senheng to free up some capital for potential new ventures.
Yes, like they're playing chess.
Exactly.
Carefully considering their next move.
And speaking of strategic moves, there's some news that might raise some eyebrows. Sersol's largest shareholder just suddenly dumped their entire stake at a pretty significant discount.
Yeah, that's definitely one to keep an eye on.
This kind of move, you know, it makes investors wonder if there's something else going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And then there's SD Guthrie, a Malaysian company, expanding into Europe by investing in a Dutch animal feed company.
Interesting.
It's interesting to see them venturing into a new market, but it makes you wonder, what's their long-term strategy?
Yeah.
It's too early to say for sure, but it could be a way for them to diversify their operations and tap into some new customer bases. The agricultural sector is always evolving, so this could be a way for SD Guthrie to stay ahead.
Yeah. So some companies are playing it safe, while others are taking risks. It's a fascinating look at the Malaysian business world.
Now, shifting gears a bit to the international scene, those U.S.-China trade tensions we mentioned earlier, they're heating up again. Trump's back at it with tariffs on Chinese imports. And of course, China's retaliating with their own tariffs on U.S. goods.
Yeah. Feels like we've seen this movie before. And it doesn't usually end well. And a lot of Malaysian businesses rely on exports to both countries, so this could be a real problem.
Definitely. It has the potential to disrupt global supply chains and create a lot of uncertainty in the market. Malaysian manufacturers who rely heavily on those exports to the U.S. or China, they might need to start exploring some alternative markets just to mitigate the risk.
Right, so don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
But isn't there also a potential upside for Malaysia in all of this? I've heard people talking about the China plus one strategy.
Right. That's the idea, that some companies might be looking to move their production away from China to reduce their exposure to these trade disputes. And Malaysia, with its location skilled workforce,
Yeah.
and a relatively stable political environment. It could
Yeah.
be a really attractive alternative.
So it's like, well, some sectors might take a hit. Others could actually see new opportunities.
Yeah, it's all about adapting to the changing landscape.
Okay.
Now, while we're on the topic of global interconnectedness, let's talk about tech. China is investigating Google right now for alleged anti-monopoly violations.
Interesting. Because Google's already blocked in mainland China. So
Right.
what's the real impact here?
It could potentially affect Google's partnerships
Mm-hmm.
and their operations in the broader region, like Southeast Asia. And it also just adds another layer of complexity to the
Right.
U.S.-China relationship.
It's a reminder that these tech giants are playing on a global chessboard, and every move they make
Oh,
can have ripple effects everywhere.
absolutely. And speaking of the tech world, analysts at Morgan Stanley are saying that these trade tensions could hurt Asian tech stocks overall.
So not great news for investors.
Not necessarily. They do think there are some bright spots. They're particularly bullish on internet companies and Chinese domestic semiconductor companies. They see those as more resilient to the trade pressures.
Interesting. So there's a potential silver lining.
Potential.
I know. Let's bring it back to the Malaysian political scene. The debate over the electricity tariff hike is heating up in Parliament.
Yeah, the government's saying that 85% of the population won't be affected by the increase, but opposition leader Hamza Zainuddin, he's not buying it. He's questioning how they plan to exempt that many people, and he's worried about potential flip-flopping down the line.
It's definitely a politically charged issue. Nobody likes to see their energy bills go up,
For sure.
especially if they think
What?
others
Yeah.
are getting a free pass.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how the government handles this. They need to find a balance between keeping energy affordable and maintaining the financial stability of Tenaga National.
Yeah. Sounds like a tough balancing act. On a different note, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim seems to be really focused on boosting domestic rice production.
Yeah.
He even talked about replicating the success of Second China and Selangor in other states.
Interesting. That's a smart move when it comes to food security.
Yeah.
You know, Malaysia relies a lot on imported rice, which makes them vulnerable to price changes and supply disruptions. Increasing domestic production would definitely help reduce that dependence and make the food supply
More stable, right? And he's not just talking. He announced a RM1 billion allocation for the Muda Agricultural Development Authority to support rice production.
Wow. That's a big investment. It shows they're serious about it. And, you know, boosting agricultural productivity isn't just about food. It's also about creating jobs, supporting rural communities, and building a more resilient economy.
Yeah. So that's a win-win on multiple fronts.
Definitely.
Now, before we wrap up, let's touch on a couple of government initiatives that I think will be popular. First up, a 50% toll discount for all festive seasons this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a welcome relief. For anyone traveling during the holidays, it helps families financially.
Yeah.
And it encourages domestic tourism, which is good for local businesses.
Absolutely. And then in the education sector.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Higher Education is trying to attract more international students to Malaysia. They're highlighting the quality of education here and the stable environment.
That's a good way to diversify income for the education sector. And it also boosts Malaysia's reputation as a regional education hub. Plus, it brings in cultural and intellectual diversity to the universities, which benefits everyone.
So we've covered a lot today, from steel industry shakeups and international trade wars to political debates and government initiatives. It's been a whirlwind tour of the latest news impacting the Malaysian economy and beyond.
It really shows how dynamic the markets are and how important it is to stay informed and be adaptable.
Yeah. And speaking of staying informed, you might have noticed a theme today, the importance of diversification, whether it's your investments, your business strategies, or even your sources of information. Spreading your risk is always a good idea.
It really feels like we're living in a time of constant change and uncertainty.
Yeah, it does. So out of everything we talked about today, what do you think is the most significant or the most game-changing?
Yeah. Well, the steel industry shakeup, that's definitely a big one. And Joe's expansion. And Colform entering Peninsular Malaysia, that could really change things for construction and manufacturing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But if you had to pick the most exciting news of the day.
I think it would have to be the rumors about Grab and GoTo potentially merging.
The Southeast Asian tech giants joining forces, that would be huge.
It would, imagine. Combining those two companies would create a regional powerhouse. It would streamline operations, reduce competition, and maybe even accelerate their path to profitability.
Yeah, and It would send a big signal to the investment community
Yeah.
that a Southeast Asian tech market is maturing
Mm,
and consolidating.
right. It would be a landmark event. It could even lead to a whole new wave of innovation and investment in the region.
So much to think about, so
Yeah.
much to watch. I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours, but unfortunately, we're out of time for today.
Yeah. Time flies when you're...
Yeah, and having a
Lightning
deep
bolt.
dive. It does. But hey, if you're as interested in this stuff as we are, be sure to subscribe to the Malaysia Money Matters podcast. We'll be back with more in-depth analysis and all the latest news you need to know.
And don't forget the key takeaway from today, diversification. Whether it's your investments, your business, or even your sources of information, spreading your risk is a good idea.
Good advice.
Mm.
So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you would like a deeper dive into all the investment opportunities from today's news, subscribe to my newsletter at moneymatters.substack.com. I will be sharing a deeper analysis of the key investment opportunities from today's news, including what makes these opportunities stand out and how they fit into the broader market trends. By subscribing to the Malaysia Money Matters newsletter, you will also get exclusive insights on my watch list and portfolio and fundamental reports on Malaysian listed companies.